Welcome, everybody. Welcome. It's another session here, episode of Conscious Gatherers. I'm Terry Palma, and I'm joined with Royse and Bev. Are you there, ladies?
Hello. Good evening, and welcome, everybody, to our episode 38. And we're glad you're all joining us tonight. So we definitely appreciate your participation and your listening to our shows. So go ahead, Terry. Yeah. You're going to start us off tonight.
Audience, the ladies informed me that I was in charge tonight, and they would fill in as needed. Of course, they always have something planned, but they said, this is your night to start, Terry, and go from there. So I said, well, okay, I'll put my driving hat on, get my driver's license ready, and away we go. So what I like to do tonight, you're going to get what is my truth. And it is what I understand to be true. That what can be true now might change, but it's what I really believe. And I'm going to share it to you. And I'm going to use some analogies to help understand, to give you a visual, because it helped me. So imagine the universe is a great body of water. And you can even use the great body of water. Take any ocean that's just, out there now, the Atlantic, the Pacific, whatever you want. And we're going to grab 5 cups. We're going to grab a white, a red, a yellow, a brown, and a black. And we're going to go to that body of water, which is in totality everything, and we're going to fill those cups with that water. From the same source, we're going to grab water and fill those cups. So now our 5 cups are filled with the identical element in them. So imagine now that you are one of those 5 cups. You are that personal or ego vessel that's holding that essence that's all the same. There's no difference in the cups. The only thing that's different is the vessel, the color. I didn't give it a dimension, so it could be larger or smaller, wider or narrower. But the essence in each one of those cups is the same. It's from the same source. And that's what we are. We are the God source within us. And the only thing we're identifying most of the time is with the vessel that's holding that same essence, that we all are alike. And that's why when you tune in or you go into a room, you can tune into people there. You felt different things from other people. Certain people attract you. Certain people might repel you. But you get a sense and a feeling of what that room's all about. And again, you're attracted or repelled from people. That's because there's no difference. We all are the same. Our Creator created them, as it says, with His image. Now, image is a misleading word because we start thinking of something that we can visualize and see. Even now we're using water as a vessel, but the Creator essence is what we call unconditioned consciousness. Once we put it in that vessel, it now has become conditioned because it's in a vessel in a colored cup. That cup is what's called conditioned consciousness, which is our ego self or our personal self, as opposed to what's really us, all of us, our God self. And so once we realize that we're our God self, we can start controlling and being in control of what we manifest, because we are manifesting our own worlds all the time, but we're manifesting it from a little bit of the God consciousness. We're using the law of creation to create, but we're using our personal selves to do that. An example, let's say that you choose to attract wealth, okay? That's your goal. That's a desire. Well, if you tapped into your God self and you had the right motive for that, because motive is important, intent, there would be no difficulty attracting as much wealth as you needed. What stops you from doing that is all of the doubts or fears that come in. Well, I didn't really get a good education. I don't know how I could create wealth. I'm not a business person. I just would like, maybe I could win the lotto. Do you see how we are thinking and going from our personal ego self, the container, and not our God self? God created us as Him. There's nothing that God can't do or the Creator can't do. And there's nothing we can't do when we come from that same source, which is within us. Quit looking at the personal self and trying to create from the personal point of view. We need to go within and tap that source. That source is there all the time. It's there, and if you look at all of the books of any religion, it tells you it's there. Your source is with you. It's always there. And just it's that doubt that comes in. Oh, you know what? I'm too old now. I should have started earlier. There's no time to do it. Or I'm too young. I'm going to wait till I'm older to accomplish that. Maybe someone will come in. Maybe I'll marry someone that has a lot of money. You see what's happening there? Each moment we have a choice, and we're making those choices constantly, moment after moment. And all of those choices are creating our world, our physical world, because we are God self, the essence we are, that we are all the same, control what is being manifest. There's nothing that we can't do from our God source. Nothing. And there are no miracles. If we think that someone's performing a miracle, that's just because we're coming from our personal self, our vessel that's holding our essence, and that vessel can't do what the God self can do. So it appears to be a miracle, but it's not. There's not a miracle. That's a natural occurrence that God gave us, like Himself, like herself, to do. I hope that makes sense. And ladies, I'm going to let you step in here because I've let a lot out.
Oh, well, thank you, Terry. That was excellent.
Very good.
Examples that you used, and it makes so much sense because of how we have doubted ourselves. And I wrote down, make excuses why we can't do anything. And we use the word we try. I'll try. And of course, when you hear I'll try, that means you doubt that you can even do it. And so, taking that try out of your language, and then you start looking at things a little bit differently. But this segues right into something that we wanted to talk about, of course. And Terry, you're unaware of this. So some information that has been coming through, mainly to Royse. I'm going to let her talk in just a moment. But I'm going to mention one thing that I received recently. It's called quantum self. And what does quantum mean? Now, that has been a word that we have used often of late, especially with the computer systems and quantum biology, all of these things that have come up, especially with some of the vaccines and that sort of thing. But quantum, when you look it up, is a discrete quantity of energy, proportional in magnitude to the frequency of the radiation it represents. So radiating light. And so there's another word for quantum self as to where we're going as human beings. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Ms. Royse here and let her explain some of the information that she understands and knows.
Yes. First of all, I wanted to say something about that trying thing. You don't say I'm going to try this. You do it or you don't, and that's what Yoda said: do or do not. There is no try. And I've seen that on a lamp, and it's just I want that lamp because it's such a true statement. But getting into where we are heading. We're human beings as Homo sapiens now, I've spoken about this before, heading towards something else because our vibration is changing, and it's changing on purpose. We're doing that. We get very aggravated when things are stagnant, that we weren't created to to be stagnant. We have to keep growing, or else we wither. And so in this growth, we raise our vibration. And when you raise your vibration, what that does is it creates a scintillating, a movement. And that, in relation to light, it is how would you word that? Self-creating light and a holding of light. So the vibration brings out the light. So the man becomes not just a physical body, but that body is radiant. It's brilliant. Now, if you were someone of a low vibration and you were watching someone whose vibration was raising and this brilliance was coming out, you would see the brilliance. It would be different from what you were yourself. Now, if you were in the state of raising the vibration and you were in the company of other people with your vibration raising, that your light would be in common, so you wouldn't be noticing so much the light, because it'd be common. You would be seeing body, but it would be not overshadowed by the light, because you're like looking at a mirror. But the other people would be seeing this brilliance. It would be quite different from what their vibration was. I don't know if I made that plain or not. Did that come across clear? Okay, and I was thinking about nature and how nature oftentimes shows us things. You think about trees in the winter time. If you're a person who's able to see auras and you look at a tree in the winter, the tree has pulled its life force down to the roots so it survives the winter. So it looks like the light is very thin and pulled in. But if you watch when springtime comes on and the life force is drawn back up into the tree, into the top branches, then the aura becomes much thicker, much more vibrant. You can see the color and the billowing out of it, the filling out of the aura. It gets much larger. And so this is like nature saying, see, this is the process that you're in. You as human beings, you're in going into the springtime of your life, bringing up the life force, raising up that vibration so that your light, you're able to hold more light, becoming Homo Luminous. So I just thought that was neat how nature shows us that. I've seen it happen over and over again, but this is quite a blatant sign.
It's interesting. You mentioned, you quantified it. If you see auras, everybody can see aura. And I can teach anybody in 30 seconds how to see an aura. Whether you're seeing colors and all that, that's a different, I think a different, vibration that someone moves into. But I can teach anybody to see another person or their own aura in 30 seconds. If we're together, it's a demonstratable type thing. But that's interesting too, that once you start once someone sees that they can see someone's aura, see their own, it like, whoa, a whole new world opens up to them.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, really? Oh my goodness, I didn't realize what I was looking at, and that's the thing with what we're teaching now and our attempt to share with you. There are these things that are available to all of us once we become aware of them and open to them. Because as soon as you are open to something, the universe was going to bring it to you, All right. And it's usually your higher self.
Within you.
What's that, Beth?
It's the universe within you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's what it's usually your higher self that is bringing that to you because it now knows, oh, you're open to that, and therefore I'm going to bring it to you. Very cool. Very cool.
Well, use the word, Terry, you just use the word aware, and that's what I get out of it. I mean, this whole, big reason why we're doing these podcasts is increasing the awareness within ourselves and the earth and who we truly are. So it's that awareness factor. But one thing that people can do now to see the auras of plants and trees, and especially when I used to do this when I would sit up high on a mountain. Haven't done it for a while. Now that this has been brought to mind, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this again. But it's very easy to sit there and just stare at the trees. And that you can look at the tops of the trees, or you can look at the small flowers, whatever it may be. But it's easier for me to see it at the tops of the trees, and then you'll see the color of the sky a little bit differently around the trees, and that's that aura coming out of the tree, that life force. And so we can all see that. I think most of us can see that. And sometimes you have to even obscure your eyes a little bit. Does that make sense? And it's like looking at a magic eye. So you're using a little different part of the brain when you're doing this. But you can see the light difference. And some people, and Ms. Royse here said she can see different colors with different species. And I don't know if I've noticed that myself. But now that I'm aware of it, I'm going to start looking.
Yeah.
So you can do that, and then you can look at the flowers. You can look at all the plants around you. It's usually easier when you have a white surface behind, but not always. But for some, it's a place to start, and because sometimes you can see that light in front of a lighter surface. And just thinking about plants and that sort of thing, I've known people, including Royce. You said you saw like a gnome, or the elves and the fairies and a
dwarf.
Dwarf, yeah, and you could tell your story. It's really kind of cute.
Oh yeah, I was where I used to live, and looking outside into the backyard, and my mind was pretty clear, and I was just kind of floating, actually, not thinking about any one thing in particular. And all of a sudden, not 3 feet away from me, this little guy just, poof, there he was. Little chunky built fellow. He couldn't have been, maybe 3 feet high. And when I saw him, I just smiled, and I raised up my hand and waved at him. And he smiled back, and his smile filled up his whole face. I mean, it went from one side of his whole side of his head to the other. And he had these chunky fat teeth, and his little hand flew up and waved hi to me. And he had these little fat, short, stubby fingers. He was adorable, but he just smiled so big, and I was just filled with joy when I saw him. And as suddenly as he had appeared, he just disappeared. Mm-hmm. And I was left with knowing that these little guys really do exist. People have not been drawing just something out of imagination. They've been drawing something that is actually quite real, and I got to witness it. I just loved it.
There are a lot of some of the countries, and Scandinavian countries, and they also they pay homage to these young gnomes and fairies and dwarfs, or whatever you want to call them, and they know they exist.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the Olympics a few years back where the show was around this sort of thing. And I was actually, at that time, I was kind of surprised that was such a big part of their belief system, or knowing system, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And how much of the culture they include with these beings. So it's it's more awareness that there's a little more around us than in the life force of everything around us, and how some of these small beings work with our nature kingdoms. And I've seen fairies, small little fairies, actually little lighted things, and one went right over my shoulder once, and I could see little wings and the whole bit. But I know they do work with the root systems, especially in the springtime. They'll come out, and they can be seen by the naked eye, and sometimes they look like fireflies, but more the fairy types look a little more blue white, where the fireflies are more yellow.
Yeah, they don't flicker.
Yeah.
It's a steady light.
It's a steady light, and they just have a nice flow to their flight patterns.
They kind of drift.
Yeah, they are. And so they're not here to amuse us. They have work to do, but they will come out and say hello. and especially when you exude love, you'll start seeing them more. They'll show themselves because they can feel your energy, and so they'll make themselves known. So it's something to think about, especially in May. I think a lot of them come out in May, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. So, keep that in mind, and just keep that love in the heart, and you may be able to witness and communicate with some of these wonderful beings.
Excellent. Now, I know some of our listeners, hearing on that, some of you might go, well, that's a little out there, guys. I'm not sure if I'm buying that. And that's okay. It just means at this time you're not open to that. But that doesn't mean that it's not real. Okay? As you become and tap into your God self, remember there's everything and anything that's possible. And we live in our own cup, okay, as you will, as I explained earlier. And there are other dimensions that are living simultaneously with us that are vibrated at a different vibration. And until you're able to be at that vibration, you simply don't see them. That doesn't mean they're not there. We're just not aware of them until you tune in, or they know that you're at a frequency, that you're at a love frequency. Okay, that's what you're carrying. Then they will share their love with you, because remember, they're part of that seed that's in their cup. They have a cup too, different cup than us. Different things than they have, but the essence that's them is us. That's the universal truth. Okay? God only created out of him and herself, the essence of them. So everything that is animated is of God essence. Now, there are different creativities involved with each of them, but we're all God created vessels for the God spirit.
Mm-hmm. Now, even our last episode, we were talking about the word, or you were, Terry, talking about the word God, and it's creator source or source. It can have different names, so please be aware of that. It's all the same thing. So it's just linguistics. So it's whatever you want to call that. I mean, it's, we just didn't happen here, guys. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So, and how somebody can believe that is beyond me, but that's another story. But to understand that, Terry, you're talking about the God self, all is God essence. Indeed it is. It's source, and we're part of that source. We're one of those cups, and each of us holds that same essence in each cup. And I love that. How you explain that, because it's easy to see that.
Yeah, and also, Bev, the reason that you're attracted to a particular color cup or vessel, several reasons. Number one, you chose what vessel to come into for whatever experiences you needed at this time. But also, the way the personal self, the ego self, relates with those different cups, those different vessels, is a lot to do with what you were taught when you were young, where you lived, what you were brought up with. Those are taught. Those aren't, you don't learn those from your God self. You learn those from your personal self and being told those things in your environment and who you're brought up with. Always use discernment. If there's something that comes up negative a feeling that is just distasteful, that's the exact signal that means you need to go inside and just freeze that feeling of that's uncomfortable, whatever, and go in and say, what's going on here? Because that's not a God sent. That's not coming from your essence. That's a personal preference. That's the ego preference coming up that you were taught, not that you know within. So that's kind of a red flag that can come up, because God only has love. You know, the things that happen on this earth, we've created. We've created through our words, our feelings, and our desires. And God gave us free will to do as we see fit with the creation that he gave us, the creatability. He does not put judgment on us at all, no matter what your religious belief might be. God is not a harsh, judgmental, or holds judgment against anyone, because we have free will. And it's our free will that'll bring us back to source and bring us back to our creator.
You mentioned back to creator, back to source, but we're already source. But it's the awareness that you are. And
Correct.
You can correct me, but I think that's what you mean.
Back to creating via your source that you are. Right now, we're creating via the vehicle of our personal self, our defined consciousness, as opposed to our undefined consciousness. The I am, the creator, is I am. And we all have I am. And we can create from the I am and create love and positive and forwardness. Or we can create I am and create negativity, biases, favoritism, and all that stuff. So the I am is the pure, undefined consciousness, and then we define it by adding something to it, grabbing a vessel, choosing this, choosing that. Every moment you have a choice to choose to act from the I am or from the selfish side of I am. Self side, personal side.
Well, I have another little shorter story about having to do with fairies, those little beings of light, that I think fits in here about that pure essence. I was observing some fairies. There were several of them out in my backyard, and there was one of them that seemed to be like the one in charge, whatever that meant. And this one came up to the glass door, and I was just amazed that it came up that close. And I was just exuding just such an appreciation for this being doing that, and just for its existing. And it came through the glass door and entered into me. It blended with me. And I dropped to my knees with tears flowing down my face because the feeling was so pure. The essence of it was just amazing. And so, to me, it was like one of those most pure feelings that I have ever felt in my life. And that being came back several times and interacted for a while before they moved on. But that feeling has stayed with me, that memory of what I experienced and what a gift I was given to be able to feel what it felt like, to know what this being was all about by its essence blending with me. What a gift. What an expression of source, It was just pure.
Beautiful, beautiful. Anything else, ladies?
I think we've covered a lot tonight. I appreciate your stories and experiences, because lot of us have these experiences, and I know some people are afraid to speak up. And here's that word, afraid. And it's really to understand what is going on, because you definitely feel it, and know that this sort of thing does exist. And yes, you can use discernment. Some may not believe it, but once you experience it, it's like you can't turn that off.
Yeah.
And it's okay to speak up. And I think the more of us that do speak up and talk about some of these absolutely wonderful experiences, more people will come forth and then share their time. Also, I can see people being more open to this as they can witness this in others and how they felt. And then, talking about your fairy that came through the glass and how that affected you. It's real. And it's, whoever is, you mentioned the word uncomfortable, Terry. It's comfortable in allowing this total love vibration into the body, because you're exuding it and you're feeling it, and that other being could feel it also.
Yeah, and by experiencing these things, it has expanded my understanding of what life is, and how far we can go, and the different facets that life has, and different expressions of it, and the possibilities for us are immense.
Absolutely. So I'd like to add to that and end on this note. Life always has been, is now, and always will be. No one can really destroy life. All right, we'll see you on March 8th at 7 o'clock. That's when our next cast will
April
be.
8th.
Oh, that's right. We're already past it. Thank you. April 8th at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So signing off for everybody. Good night, and enjoy your 2 weeks until we see you again.
Good night, everybody.
I love you, and thank you for staying.